Well, welcome to What the Body.
Welcome to What the Body.
Yay.
Absolutely. We're so excited that you're here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. We've got Virgie Tovar, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, 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 woo.
We are so excited. You don't even know, but you've changed my life in multiple ways. But you are like the beginning of my body liberation journey about 5 years ago. You were like the catalyst. And so the work that you do and how you show up in the world really matters. And I think that's something that we aren't told a lot as humans. So just so you know, you have absolutely changed my life. So.
Oh, that feels so good. Thank you for telling me that.
Of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we were thinking about just how to intro you, Virgie, and man, we just read everything and it's nearly impossible to give your bio, but the best we can do it is you're an author, journalist, Forbes.com contributor, lecturer. You have a TED Talk from 2018, which is magnificent, especially in the first minute. And master's in sexuality studies with a focus on intersections of body size, race, and gender. That is how I would summarize
That's how we would summarize you in the best possible way. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for reading up on all that.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of things. I'm like, I've got a million jobs.
That's what we were saying. We were like, you are everywhere. And I love that. I love the trips and the podcasts and the books and the education piece. And you're just like doing it. Yeah. We're so proud of you.
Out there.
It's so good. It's so good.
Thank you.
So how would you describe yourself in one sentence?
Yeah. I mean, I think like both my professional and personal life are very interconnected, and they're both committed to doing my part to end weight-based discrimination.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of just like how I summarize what I do.
Yeah. Yes. And you're out here doing that. Absolutely. We, when we were looking at reviews and what people had to say, the people that get it, and the ones that don't. And I want to know what your thought is on that, because you can't educate everybody. You can put it in the world and people can choose to read it or choose not to. How do you silence those voices to keep your work on track and doing what you do and show up the way that you do in the world?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's sort of a multi-prong approach. Like on the one hand, I think what's weird, and I kind of just want to name this, right, is like, you've got the people who are like never gonna get, like, I mean, I've got like incels who hate my guts and they just hate women. They hate, like, they really feel like like the government is supposed to like distribute them like a wife or something. I'm like, we're just right. That's never gonna be a thing. Like, you're never gonna get me. Like, there's nothing that I can say that you're not gonna demonize.
Yeah.
Because I'm like pushing for women's autonomy, which you don't want, right? Essentially. Yeah. And then you've got the people who are essentially like basically the exact same politics, and yet they hate you with like a passion that's like somehow even more personal than the incel. I'm like, the incels just hate like women. Like, I'm like, any woman who talks is like someone they don't like.
Absolutely.
And they generally just are like, generally you guys. And I feel like I'm like, wait, the people who like have 99.9% political overlap are the ones where it's like, oh, like I mean, I get it too, like it's like so personal. So I understand how you can get so deep in the weeds that like one small difference can kind of lead to very strong feelings. So I want to name that it's like I think that both require slightly different psychologies or slightly different things or tools.
Absolutely.
I think kind of overall my feeling is like, I think I have like layers of feeling. So I guess the first one that comes to mind is like, I think I learned not that long, within the last 2 years, like, I can't, like, people are going to have different opinions.
Yes.
I can't let anybody tell me who I am.
Oh, I love that.
And so I think like, you know, and it requires kind of this like flexibility, right? So for example, I've certainly had people who have said things like, you're not a person of color. and it's like one of those things where I'm like, I look back, think back, day I was born, my life, where,
Yeah.
where I grew up, who I grew up with, what language I grew up speaking. I'm like, I think those were the criteria, right? I think I fit
I
all of the
actually think all of those are a
things.
checkbox. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then, but I'm just like, and to kind of hold like to this person, I am not who I am.
Right.
And that
Mhm.
is okay.
Yeah.
I can hold that, and I can also
Yeah.
hold that they're not going to change what I know I am.
Yeah.
And I think that very much like that was probably the hardest one realization, that like even people who I respect or adore or admire the work that they do, no matter what, like no matter how much I love them or like them or think that the work they're doing is important, they don't ever get to tell me who I am.
No.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's not just an incel who doesn't tell me who I am.
Yeah.
It's like the highest, most respected person in my life
Absolutely.
also doesn't get to tell me who I am.
Right.
So I think there's sort of like that, and just being really clear, like these are my values, this is who I am. And I think also hard one, and very connected to that, is like I am living the life that I know is driven by my values.
Absolutely.
And I have to just, I mean, ultimately, right? I think at the end of the day, what it is you have to be the most important witness to your life.
Yes.
Oh, I
I
love
have to be
that.
I have to be the person whose witnessing counts the most to my own life.
Mm.
Oh,
Otherwise, it's like really easy to get caught up and kind of chase like these different things. So it's kind of the highest order. And then I would say a lot of times, I mean, sometimes it's they're like I've used this analogy with a few people before. Like if someone came up to me on the street and like stepped to me and was like, you shouldn't drive because you have a uterus and that makes you inferior. And I would just be like, LOL, okay.
have a good life.
1937 called and they want you back. Like I feel like I've been able to adopt that attitude about like other things where I'm just like, I would just loll at this if you were telling me any other thing that's archaic
Yeah.
from which all of our current beliefs stem, right?
Yes.
So like all of the belief that women are inferior, it's completely connected to diet culture. So if I
Yeah.
wouldn't accept that you don't think I can do
Yeah.
something on the basis of like having a period or something
Yeah.
like that, then I'm not going to accept that you don't like what your opinions are about like my
Anything
body
else.
size. They're like
Absolutely.
completely connected.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
I think that the third thing I would say is like, so I think there's like the kind of like, the hierarchy of values answer, which is there. And then there's also kind of the dismissal answer. And I guess like the third answer is for people who don't get it. And I think the people who don't get it, but would benefit from getting it,
Hmm.
I just have to say like, I'm just like, this wound is so big.
Yes.
I understand why you would hold on to something
Hmm.
that's too painful to excavate.
Absolutely.
And so I think there's that feeling too, where I'm just like, oh, you're traumatized. I'm traumatized.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here trying to do the therapy, read the books,
Hmm.
meditate, do the thing that I think on one level, like a lot of us, I think on this planet um, or should be doing or like destined to do or meant to do. And some people, though, most of us, most humans, don't ever want to look at that trauma because it's
Yep.
Yeah.
extremely painful.
Yes.
So I'm just like, okay, like we have different approaches to trauma.
Yes.
We
Yes.
probably like, I'm the kind of person who like, I look back at my childhood and I want to process it.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
person who is like
Same.
fighting on behalf of fat phobia has very different values than I do. I'm like,
Very.
you probably have had adverse child experiences that you don't want to excavate, and
Hmm.
that's your right. And so I just sort of think, it's like it's almost like a value's different. We just treat trauma differently,
Yeah. And that's okay. It's okay to treat trauma differently.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
it's scary. I mean, it's scary when you start thinking about like, okay, I want to change. I want to reach for more. And oh shit, I've got to actually face my trauma first.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the journey up already seems hard. Climbing the ladder seems hard. But what you don't realize is that it's so freeing and you become weightless in general, right? In terms of just like the weight of the trauma, right?
Right.
Whatever it is. And so part of what I was going to ask you, because I thought it was such an incredible, I've always wanted to write a book because of this reason. You talk about in your book, you have the right to remain fat, where you kind of go through like the story of your childhood, right?
Yeah.
The pivotal moments of when the trauma happened, how it was, and obviously your writing is so good that I felt like I was right there. I felt like I was you.
Yes.
And then you go through this period of moment where you walk into this, seminar, you were there and you saw everybody in bigger bodies having fun and having joy, and they were all together, and they were wearing the one that you said you were like, I'm going to be her. It's like she's in her bathing suit and she's just
someone's chasing her with a parasol.
Right.
That
And
to me, the visual. And it's so freeing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to explain it. As a photographer, there's such a different energy when you get fat bodies together. And it's a joyful moment where you're photographing fat bodies and they're able to interchange clothes and we're all sweating together. And there's just so much liberation in the community of bodies that look like yours because we've always been othered, right? So it's always this just like constant state of being othered of, I got to wear what I'm going to wear because I know I can't go to my friend's house and change my skirt or my shirt, or I have to have extra stuff in my car, or I've got to make sure I've got my anti-chafe cream and my hickey stuff in my bag because I'm going to be sweaty and smelly, and that's just who I am. Like, there's just this constant state of being othered that I think your book hit on such a place of, we just talked about nostalgia, but like the thing that we craved so much as a kid of feeling included and part of something was, I think, what hit me the most about that scene and that story. And it resonated so hard with me.
But
and
in
it
that
did
moment,
years ago too.
like we all have done this, right? The three of us anyway. You see, okay, that actually looks like joy and I want that. And then you have to start a journey. You don't go from where you were to that woman in the bathing suit, right? And this is the part that we're talking about. And it doesn't stop. It is a never ending journey, right? And so what gave you the strength? Like what was that process for our listeners, thinking maybe they're not quite there yet, or maybe they understand that's why they're listening, but what do you do first?
Oh my God. I mean, I think that's really like personal. On the one hand, like I don't know that there isn't a one size fits all model for that, but I think for me it was, I will say like so I have, like I mentioned, I have like childhood trauma. So part of my childhood trauma is that I'm a black and white thinker. So I'm someone who like can look at a whole body of facts, for example. And then if there's one fact that kind of calls all the other facts into question, I'll just throw them all out. I kind of want to be clear that like some of this is like the rigidity of a society that told me you will never have that. No fat person has that. No fat person has that joy. No fat person has that desire. No fat person gets to have that experience of femininity that is like bombastic and dramatic and show-stopping. No fat person gets to have like their lover chasing behind them with a parasol so that they won't get a sunburn because their body isn't precious enough for that.
Absolutely.
So now, right, like, right, I had this like monolithic idea of what it meant to be fat. And then I'm going to a space where there's dozens of people who are literally, they're all the data points.
Absolutely.
That say, actually, if I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's like 35, 40, 50 people here, fat people here.
And they're all doing it, honey.
Doing that exact thing.
Yeah.
So I think there was sort of like, I think it was, and specifically kind of that moment where I see like this very bombastic feminine person who's like wearing a vintage bikini and has cat eye sunglasses and is like strutting out, and their lover is holding a parasol over their head. I mean, obviously this is like so cinematic and amazing, but I think I was like in that moment realizing that it wasn't acceptance that I craved, it was that. And kind of like to almost be leveled up by another person. Like, no, I don't want to just have access to like, the Ann Taylor oeuvre. I don't want to just have access to employment, just have access to equal wages and things that fat people are denied. I want that. And kind of like, I think for me, it's like the fact that there was someone alive and doing it and right in front of me gave me kind of the strength to say, I'm done. And I kind of want to say also at that time, we were in a different time culturally when I had that moment. It was like 2010. And at that time the news had not broken yet that we could all stop dieting.
Right.
Nobody knew that. Nobody knew. And so if you can imagine going from a culture where like literally I mean, I had a very robust political life, and I've been an activist since I was 18 years old. So like I
Right.
mean, I've been a critical thinker, activist, political person and feminist since I was like 20 years old.
Mm.
And it had never occurred to me that I could stop dieting as a fat
Yeah.
person. I thought you're
Mm.
fat, you have to diet, everybody diets, that's how it works. And then at this conference, it was like I was being introduced to, I was asked the question, did you know you don't have to diet? Which I
Oh,
did not know that I didn't have to diet. That was like a huge, like, genie out of the bottle moment. And then to see this model of the femininity that I've always desired and
yes.
craved was like this 1-2 punch of like, whatever I have to do
Right.
to
Yeah.
adopt, to live like this, I will do it. And so I
Yeah.
think there is kind of there's like, I guess what I'm saying, I guess the wrap up is like, I think there is, for me, there was like this leap of faith, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think what was on the other side wasn't worth fighting
Right.
for me.
Right.
Like the math just didn't add up. I was like, this, I'm miserable. I'm not getting the outcomes I
Yeah.
want. I hate
Absolutely.
myself. I'm afraid of food. Like, it's just like, there, I was like, the calculations just aren't there. And
Yeah.
so I think yeah, that was like the leap of faith, and just kind of like being like, I'm gonna do whatever I have to do
Yeah.
to integrate this, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know?
Joy.
Joy. And I think you hit on it really well. And until I read your book the first time, which it was right when I was starting my boudoir world. So it
Mm,
was 17, 18, I believe, because I saw your TED Talk, realized that you had a book, read the book, and then just re-listened to it via audio. And it brought back everything that touched on it the first time. And I'm 5'11". I've been big my whole life. And the way that you talk about how we play as children in the size
mm,
body that we have, I think is really important. And if you've not read the book, I want you to touch on this for people, because as children, we're taught size is related to gender. Like a larger body automatically plays the husband, like in this weird male female world that we live in, right?
Assumptively. Like there's no
Assumptively.
discussion.
There was no discussion. I could never be the pretty wife at home. I was always the backstage coordinator, or the husband, or the male presenting role. And I didn't know that I needed the permission from someone like you to fit the role of I am feminine. I can have a masculine and feminine side, and they can be equal parts. And I didn't know I needed permission for that. And I think that to me was the biggest takeaway from your entire book, and why when I reread it, I just was like, I have to remind myself that it's okay to have both masculine and presenting bits of me, but to give yourself permission to have both, I think is really beautiful. And we have a lot of moms that listen to this podcast. Could you talk into that for us briefly, to have that conversation with their
yeah.
kiddos?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is ultimately like when I went to grad school and did research, this is what I chose to talk about. I was
Yeah.
like, how does weight discrimination impact women, like
Mm,
women who have been big their whole lives, like since girlhood. And because for me, yeah, I had a lot of gender confusion as a kid,
a lot.
because right, like I was told that I was a girl, and there was, I mean, like I had some of the signifiers, right? Like my parents had my hair long, they would put like little lipstick on me sometimes or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
there were those kind of signifiers. But outside of those signifiers, I didn't have any social signifiers that were affirming my gender. So let me get more specific, right? So like I could not shop at the girls department, and I'm like,
Mm.
wait, so if I'm not shopping in the girls
Mm.
department
Same.
because nothing fits,
Yep.
then am I a girl?
Mm.
Mm,
Then I mean, I was watching, certainly I was getting bullied, which and the bullying was very, very focused on my gender. It was very, I mean,
Mm.
yes, it was about my fatness, but it was specifically about being a fat girl.
yes.
And the problem was that I didn't look the way that a wife is supposed to look, or a girlfriend is supposed to look. And the boys
Mm,
at my school felt that that was a punishable offense.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
So it's so connected to my gender. So anyway, so like, and then so the bullying is there, and the bullying has this sort of, right, like I'm watching in movies and on television, and everywhere I look, real girls are treated like delicate flowers,
Yep.
like they need to be protected. And I was getting the opposite. I was like not protected.
Yep.
The boys in my school were physical with me in a rough way
Yep.
that was different from the way that they treated thin girls. And I guess like what that there's all of that. And then I think about even like this to hone in on this microscopic moment, like that moment at the party where every girl is getting like the princess set with the little slippers
Yep.
and the little crown and the wand and like the little whatever, like a little dress, and the slippers don't fit me and the
Yep.
dress doesn't fit me,
Yep.
and I'm just like, so what am I, like I'm some other thing. And
Exactly
I
that.
think in my head it's like, with I was certainly, like most of us, brought up believing in like the gender binary. So like I
Yes.
must be, like, if I'm not a girl, then I must be like a boy or something like
Yep.
that. I'm not quite sure. And then in terms of the play, yeah, like every day, I remember fourth grade in particular, and I read about this in the book. In fourth grade, my best friend was named Lorna, and Lorna is very petite. And every day we reenacted the romance from the book series, The Babysitter's Club.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I wanted to be able to play Marianne. So the
Yes.
two characters are Marianne and Logan, and this is like the primary romance of the Babysitter's Club series. And at that time, which is like the 90s,
Yep.
this was a very popular series.
Yeah.
So every day we're reenacting it at lunch, and it's like every single day without fail she plays Marianne. There's no discussion,
Mm-hmm.
there's just no conversation, no
Yeah.
negotiation. And I remember wanting to ask and then kind of feeling really ashamed and knowing that it
Yes.
was impossible,
Yep.
that like it would be ridiculous to ask my
The
best friend
audacity
Lorna.
to ask, right? Like the audacity to, how dare you? Yes,
Totally.
and I lived this life and I thought I was the only person until you literally put it in black and white. And I was like, I didn't realize that there was more of us out here like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. The impact that you have on people, I don't even think you realize like how affirming it felt for my soul. It was like a solve.
A permission to be happy.
Yes. And to have, just the freedom
Yeah.
to feel good in your skin.
Yes.
And not feel like you have to fit a role just because it was force fed to you. I don't know. It's so freaking cool. It's so freaking cool. Yeah.
It's
Right,
amazing.
and I think the gender piece is like, I mean, kind of like claiming femininity. The culture is trying to deny fat people femininity if they identify with that, if they
Yeah.
want that. And I think there is, like, I think what's interesting is to, for me as a fat woman, to, it's like I still grapple with this. Like, I mean, a way that it's showing up right now is I'm 40, and I basically made the decision that I'm not going to become a biological parent.
Mm.
And as I was processing it with my partner and with my friends, I was like, there's a lot here. There's a
Yeah.
lot of reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why there's feelings of ambivalence, that's where I've landed.
Yeah.
And I have to name that one of them is being fat. Because
Mm.
biological maternity is this ultimate signifier of femininity in our culture.
Right.
And to sort of refuse to do that as a fat person, is complicated, right? Because people already want to put me in a box of like lonely, single,
Mm.
unable to have children, or really like desperately desiring this like
Mm.
cultural narrative and not able to access it,
Yep.
and I think obviously there are lots of people for whom biological parenting is not accessible or desirable for many reasons. But when you're a fat woman, the reason is because you have failed in some way yet again.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
so to kind of like step away from that gendered expectation and say like, this is my choice, this is my body yet again. And so but the gender piece of it was a pain point for me,
Mm.
and I was like, wow, it's still there. I mean, I've
Mm.
worked through a lot of stuff. I've reclaimed a lot of my space, the like feminine space that feels like it's mine to claim. But it's that it's still a pain point sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. Very much no.
Yeah.
Very much no. I'm also single. And so I refuse to ask for help from people And so like I have the tools and the toolkit and I know how to hang really heavy stuff. And like, so the things that bring me joy, sometimes I still question because of that very exact pain point of you can't have both. And in reality, we can have whatever the fuck we want to have.
Or we can decide that we don't want that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 45, single, no kids, and very, very happy that, I mean, that's kind of like a destination, right? It's a journey and a destination of like, maybe at 35, I kind of wanted to, but as I'm older, I'm so grateful that I don't have children. I didn't want children.
Grateful.
I get to do so much more. And so I mean, you know, obviously I'm not plus size, I'm not fat. And I identified with every single thing that you just said, other than like, and for me, it's a bit of femininity too. It's like, wait a minute, but you're not married, no kids. Yep. You're obviously lonely and sad. It's like,
right.
I'm the opposite.
We are the opposite. We are the opposite. Yes.
Of lonely and sad.
No. Hell no, we're not.
I'm out here living my best damn life.
We're starting podcasts. We're doing the shit. We're running businesses. We're traveling the world. We go to Mexico in 2 weeks. We're like, peace out, Cub Scout. We got our dogs and
we got each other, bro.
We got each other. Yeah. We got our dogs. Like, we good, right? Like, we don't need that. And the joy that you can give to yourself.
Yeah.
When you let go of the stereotypical, this is what society told me I should be, this is the box I check, and go, I don't have a box. I have a flat pizza that's painted purple and yellow.
I can put whatever toppings on it I want.
You know? Like, I'm just like, yeah. And giving permission, like as a boudoir photographer, giving that permission to people where they come in and they're like, I know boudoir is supposed to be X. And I'm like, boudoir is whatever the fuck you want it to be. Do you want to do, you know, like, let's play that line. Let's flirt that line. Let's do, Allie is a great example. I have a client who I've shot like 7 times. And sometimes she wants to put something really, really lacy and pretty and delicate on her body, but then pose in a very like dominant way and playing with the gender norms of like, okay, I'm told I look like this, so I should pose like this. And she's like, no. Absolutely not. Let's play this fine line. And I think that's so cool when people have given themselves the permission to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's super beautiful. Yeah. So.
And I think, you know, and I put this review on Amazon because when I went to Amazon, I was pissed off at like 4 people who gave you a review. And I think, you know, if you see a book, you know, if people who look like me see a book that says you have the right to remain fat, we're going to think this isn't for us. And quite frankly, I think it's the opposite.
I think every fucking person on the planet should listen to
my
that.
review for you was, I'm a thin, cis, white female. And this book was eye-opening. Bravo. Because it's like you put into words so many beautiful things. And so, but this is also my job, right? Man down. I mean, you know, I show up into a room and they're like, oh, you're the one that made Hickey? You're the one that made her skin pulse. And I'm like, yes.
It's me.
It's me.
It's me. Because I'm a huge ally.
Yeah.
I want people to feel good in their body.
It's really important to educate yourself about marginalized groups of people who are not you.
Yes.
Just because you cannot identify with that person does not mean you can't understand them, embrace them, and advocate for them.
Yeah.
You know?
Very much. Very much. So we have your body positive journal here. I don't know why this brings me so much joy. Just having it in my hand brings me so much joy. But I want you to talk about the creation of this. Was this like a love letter to the little girl that you grew up knowing? Is this like, it felt very personal, very, very much felt like I did this because I needed this and there wasn't anything in the world like it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I love that you sensed that. I mean, like there was a lot of intention, that went into it, went to the design, went into the illustrator and the illustrations.
Yes.
I mean, journaling has been a big part of my recovery, from diet culture, from disordered eating, you know, from a lot of different things. And so journaling for me, it's like, I say it in the book, I'm like, journaling it's really, I mean, it's so many things, right? Like it's obviously words to page, but when you think when you zoom back a little bit, I think of it as kind of all of these important lessons, like to begin with the lesson that your life deserves to be documented.
Yes.
in some way. And I think like I love this both and you can do this through, photography, through
Yes.
journaling. Like I think one of the things I was taught was that as a fat person is that my life isn't worth documenting until I become a thin person,
Mm.
which it
Oh,
never happened and is never going to happen for the vast majority of fat people.
yep.
And that's not a bad thing. And so I think, this self erasure that I participated in, always opting out of photos,
Absolutely that.
never writing about what I was going
Mm.
through, right? Like the kind of like, I think that just sort of, it's a line in the sand. It's saying like, I deserve to be documented, even if
Mm,
it's just for my own records. Let the record show that I existed
yes.
in this fat body, like in this complicated time.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. And I think obviously the lesson, and I wrote about this in the introduction, the lesson of the power of of turning the page, and kind of like how we can, that metaphor, that simple thing, like, right, you have to teach children how to turn the page. That's something that, like, you learn at a certain age.
Yeah.
And it's like a physical motor act, but it's also a very important metaphorical lesson for us as human beings, that you can always turn the page.
Yes.
There is a blank slate to be
Mm-hmm.
had, right?
That's
And
so
we have that
beautiful.
power in our hands.
Yep.
And so I think, journaling is obviously very personal to me. And then when I think about, I did a bunch of focus groups leading up to the journal, and I was like, what do you want to see? What are topics that you want to talk about? How do you talk about things like anger? How
Mm.
do you talk about things
Mm,
like food? Like, how do you want
yeah.
to talk about those things? And I felt like it was like my personal, I wanted to bring, like, I remember I had this conversation with my editor, and I was like, I've never made a journal before. What are
Yeah.
your words of advice as I embark on this journey?
Yeah.
She was like, remember that this is someone's sacred space.
Oh, that's so
Um,
good.
and it was like that became my North Star. I was like, okay, there is not a single reference to me in the book.
Mm.
There's no I in
Yeah.
that. There's no I in the book. And so I was like, how can I like be in service to
Mm-hmm.
someone's sacred space and creating a sacred space? And I think where the style really shows up was like, the illustrator style and palette are very similar to mine. It's like very vibrant colors,
Yeah.
very like sweet, joyful images of people doing
Yeah.
things that matter to them. Um, and specifically, I love what you said that it brought you joy, because I was like, I want someone to see this book and to this journal, and even if they're not ready to write in it, just to see it on their
Mm.
bedstand or
Yes.
in their library, and
Mm-hmm.
for it to bring joy.
Yep.
That was a big goal, was like, and specifically for people who are going through recovery from disordered eating or from diet culture or fat phobia or all of those things. um I wanted it to feel like a world that I
Mm,
had built for them to come and
Mm.
it
play
does.
and have meaningful realizations within, right?
Yes.
Keeping joy and levity, like reminding us that, like, that there's this beautiful like pink beach,
Yeah.
right, that we can all occupy,
Yeah.
all,
I mean, even
you
like
know
draw the plants and like take the trash
yeah.
out and that kind of stuff to me hits so hard because like, what do you need in order to grow? Are you kidding me? Nobody's ever asked me that. Like,
Yes.
are you serious? I just like I picked it up and I was like, "Oh, okay. There is a world in here. This can be my
Mm.
own sacred world. This can be my own." And I'm really getting into manifestation and like energy and the things like that and letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve me anymore. And this gives you the permission to do that in a very safe
Fun.
and fun
Yeah.
and engaging and empowering way. And I don't know, it just brings me so much joy.
It's unlike
I'm
any
so
journal I've
happy.
ever seen.
Me
For
too.
sure.
Hmm.
I mean, we're saying all these wonderful things, but we mean it, because this is the literal reason why we started the podcast. It's the reason why I made the deodorant lotion. It's the reason why you're a boudoir photographer. It's the reason why we had you on the show.
Why
And
you're here.
Yeah.
It's all the
Well, we
like
begged you on the show.
all-
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Please, please, please.
It's
You're
like-
our North Star.
yeah,
We really want you to
you
come because
are
you're
the
like
reason.
the reason, the absolute
why we're
reason.
doing all of
Yeah.
this.
So it's
Oh,
it's very
lovely.
thanks for saying
we don't mean to
that.
fangirl. Like that's
No,
not what
but
this
I mean, this
podcast's
is-
about. But we just the work
is
that
our
you
purpose.
do is very
Aligned.
important and so in line with both of our both of our things. And we talk about this all the time. Like when Hickey, 2 years ago, the principles, right? I get on this board with you and it's like, we have this awesome product and it works and all the things. And it's just so much more than a product.
Yeah.
It's a movement. You're part of something. You're creating a safe and empowered space for people to just be. And it's so important that that message is in the world because you do it so unapologetically. And it's like, who cares what the haters say? I'm here because I want to be here and I'm choosing to show up for people that most times don't get showed up for.
I mean, when you got on the call and you're like, yeah, I put Hickey all over and it made me want to go to bathing suit season. I'm like, that's it.
That's it.
That's the thing.
That's the move.
Love
That's
it.
what we want.
So you do trips too.
Yeah. Talk to us about
Yeah,
that.
I want to hear about your trips.
You just got back from one, I think.
Well, I kind of want to give a little, I don't know if there's room to give Hickey a little shine, but I would love to do that.
Yeah.
We would love that.
I would love that. Be honored.
Well, I mean, I told you before we started recording, I was like, oh, the first time I used it, I'm like turning the dial, expecting sort of like a pasty thing to come out of the little holes, and then this beautiful creamy lotion comes out. I'm like, oh, I love this. It was like this interruption of expectation, right? Like, oh my God, this isn't gonna like be like rubbing against my skin and this like weird, you know what I mean? Like kind of
Adding
the
chafing.
resistance that you get from having like a product that's got that paste sort of vibe. And yeah, that smell, like I have the I mean, I have all the smells, but all the scents, but the coconut one, I was like, yes, I'm going to put on my bikini top and do this interview. It's going to be great. You know, and so it like took me to that place of like being at the beach and taking care of my skin.
Yeah.
You know, like putting on suntan lotion or something, or like, you know, SPF stuff, you know,
the white stuff. The things that protect you from the sun.
Like having that moment.
Yeah.
And just kind of, I mean, I loved the kind of permission. Like I told you before, like, you were like, where do you put it? I'm like, well, I put it in my armpits. I put it under my boobs. There's a line, there's sort of the fold above my fupa. And I actually also do my inner thighs. And so it was like, just really, I mean, I felt like this, again, kind of like, you know, I think that as a person who's been, you know, around other fat people, all of my, basically a lot of my adulthood at this point, you know, I've witnessed many people put deodorant on the same places, but it's like, and I've done it too. And it's just kind of this like interesting thing where it's like, no, this isn't me hacking this product.
Yeah.
This product is, it's a slightly different psychology that I think is like really powerful.
Yes.
And purposeful.
And intentional. Yes.
Yeah. And I just, one of the first times ever, I remember at that very same conference where I saw that person who like really inspired me with her, like her bombastic femininity. I remember, you know, it was like, we started having conversations. You know, once I was in fat positive spaces, the conversation about skin folds began to emerge really early on. It was very much understood that we were doing the work of trying to destigmatize an important conversation. And I think like, right, like there have been so many, I mean, at least again, I'm so deep in this world. So I'm so aware of like all the stuff that's all the news items. Like, I think there's these, I remember throughout the last 10 years, for example, there have been a few celebrities who like talk about getting weight loss surgery because they have skin folds that like got irritated or got infected. And I mean, I have this kind of, I mean, it's like, right. Like, I mean, obviously, that's a whole nother issue. But I remember thinking like, it's so unfortunate that like we're so alienated from the conversation about like skin touching skin. Honestly, anybody of any size, frankly, I mean, to take the metaphor, to take like the example, pugs need to have their skin folds cleaned.
Yes, they
or
do.
They get infections, and I'm like, come on now, pugs. No one's like morally judging pugs for being pugs.
No.
I'm just like, I can't do less for my body than I would do for my beloved pug.
Right. And I love that so much. And every body has skin that touches. Like the permission to just have a product that you can put anywhere. Like, yes, we are naming the gremlin in the room. They are skin folds. but our skin folds, whether you're a size 00 or you're a 22 or a 40. The
Yes.
skin touches skin. And then
And
it
it's
creates
okay.
bacteria
Yeah.
and moisture, and that's where the scent comes from.
Yeah.
So like just
Yeah.
giving yourself the permission to put it anywhere.
Yeah.
You do that on your packaging even.
And it's not a secret,
made
like,
for skin folds.
right. It's not like monostat, right?
Right.
Where it's like a secret, like you
Yeah.
can pull it out. It's fun. The branding's fun. And that was all intentional. I'm so happy that you get it. It's like, that is the reason why I wanted, you were like, wait a minute, why does it say made for skin folds? And I'm like, let's fucking go.
Talk about it. We love it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's important.
Yes.
that's
Thank
so
you.
important.
That's exactly why I did it. And I want it to bring joy, not shame. I don't want you to feel like you have to put the stinky deo on no, this is the beautiful cream that's going to make you feel joy.
And it's not going to
Yeah.
cause breakouts and
Yeah.
reactions and all the things. It's just a silky, smooth, delicious thing that you get to carry
Yeah.
in every bag that you own now. Like it comes out of my ears. Oh, it's in my car. It's in my bag. It's in my backpack. Like I have it everywhere. But yeah, no, I love that.
Thank you for that.
I love that you love it. I love that she loves
I do
it.
too.
Yes.
That makes me smile.
Of course.
Oh.
Sorry, I just wanted to like take that moment to sort of to just celebrate like the openness of the
Yes.
marketing
Yeah.
and it's just great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Especially in a world full of regression right now. We're
Yeah.
doing this weird growth thing where, bigger bodies, plus size bodies, fat bodies they're starting to fall right back into that same shame of, we need to have the smallest body that we can. And there's
We're
some
not doing
companies that are really doing the
Yeah.
opposite of that and in joyful, colorful, bright, meaningful ways. And I think that's so important.
Yeah. And we will try to celebrate every single one of them on this podcast.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Yes.
Very much. So what are you looking forward to in the next year or so? What sets your soul on fire? Like, what are you super excited about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think like to go back to something that I interrupted you, but like we had talked about the trips. Like I
Yeah.
just got back from Italy and like had taken a group of plus size people to Italy and I don't know, it was just like so affirming and so exciting. And my mantra as we're like, and Italy is such a historic, gorgeous place.
Absolutely.
I just kept thinking big bodies in beautiful places, big bodies in beautiful places, kind of like we deserve that.
Yes.
Like I remember we were, coming out of the Sistine Chapel, there's like St. Peter's Basilica, which is just an absolutely gorgeous cathedral where there's just, gold everywhere, marble. I mean, it's one of the most ornate structures ever. And so and we're all just kind of there and I'm like sort of walking behind the group and I can just the light is shining in through these like incredible cathedral windows and it's just reflecting on their skin and the outlines of their bodies and it was just so gorgeous, and I just that was kind of like this. Like, again, I deserve to be here. I deserve to be documented.
Absolutely.
My body is not an outlier in this space, but a complete like extension of the beauty of this place.
Yep.
And I kind of was holding that intention as we were like traveling to these absolutely gorgeous historic places,
That's lovely.
understanding like, I don't know, like the dimensions of like the Colosseum, for example, is just this incredible, massive structure that has, sort of stood the test of time. It's like, it's absolutely humbling to be in its sort of like, I don't know, like to be next to it, to gaze up at it or whatever. And kind of thinking about like this largeness as something that is worthy of awe and things like that. So, I mean, I think to pivot to the question of like, what I'm excited about, there's like, there's so many things. Like I'm doing a lot of traveling in the upcoming year. I am it looks like I just did a talk for Georgetown, their like adolescent psychiatry department, and they're called grand rounds. Like when it's like kind of a medical school thing. Like at the end of it, there's like this series of talks, and I did this talk on weight discrimination and basically like how we have to switch the number one question from but isn't fat being unhealthy, to what is the moral imperative knowing what we know about what weight stigma does to people.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And it was just kind of like when we switched the narrative from health to human rights,
Oh, so good.
what happens? Like
Yeah.
what, and again, it's like, if medicine isn't about human rights and improving human life, then why does it exist?
Yes.
Is it like, does it exist to improve turtles' lives? Like,
Right.
whose lives are you improving if you're not doing that? And so it just, I think it's like really having this like very non-judgmental, very loving conversation with people, medical professionals who are open to having this conversation. And it was really, it just was enthralling to get back like feedback from one of the faculty members saying that, it was like, that was the best grand rounds we'd ever had. Like, that was the best grand round speaker we'd ever had. And it just to be like, wow, right? Like, I'm like, I'm not even a medical doctor. Like, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a practitioner of any kind in that way. And so it just felt really good. And I'm like, and they've all that to say, they've invited me to kind of come in and participate in more of these conversations with medical professionals. So I'm like really excited about that.
That's lovely.
I'm turning
I
41
love that.
this year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've already like, I've got my it's my birthday. I'm a Taurus. I'm a May birthday person. And I'm already like preparing all my little things.
Yes.
Like, it's like mid-April. So I'm like, I'm going to get my birthday napkins for my whole birthday month. This huge stack of napkins. I just bought them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get my birthday napkins so I can remember every day as I'm like using a napkin that it's my special month. And I'm like, I think I'm going to, I was just shopping for like flowers. I'm like, I think I'm going to just do the 200 roses this year.
Oh,
because
I love
why
it.
not? Like,
Why not?
There's this company that I just bought flowers for a friend who had like a couple of powerful professional things happen. And I was like, let me send her some flowers. I was looking on the website and I was like, wow, they'll deliver 200 roses.
Well, tell you what, if you want to do a boudoir shoot in those 200 roses, I will fly to you and I will do that as your birthday gift.
Wow.
Dead ass, I will catch a plane and we can do a huge full blown. You can get naked in your birthday suit in front of your 200 roses. Bet. I'm serious. I'm so serious about that. I'm so serious. That would be so much fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that be dope?
That would be amazing.
That would be so dope. You can come as my assistant. We'll fly there.
Virgie.
I'm so serious
Happy
too.
Happy birthday, honey.
Done.
I'm taking it.
Yay.
Done.
Wow.
Done. We are doing it. I'm so excited. I love when people have a concept like that. They're like, I want to go big because I deserve it. And I'm there. Well, I don't know what's beeping. It was our GoPro. But I love when people do that and they're like, I'm just going to celebrate me. And the documentation of that, I think, is the most important thing, because it's one thing to gift it to yourself. It's another to like memorialize it and make it a deal. Like, this is part of my narrative. This is the story I leave behind, because we don't take photos on this earth for us. It's the story we leave behind. That's a big part of your story. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Done.
That's incredible. That's amazing. I love this.
Done.
Thank you.
Of course.
You get the roses.
It's my absolute honor.
You get the roses. We'll get the flights.
We'll get the flights. Done.
Yeah.
Absolutely done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so, I guess I'm excited about this. I'm added to I'm excited about my boudoir.
Love it.
Yes.
I love it so much. Yes, everybody
exciting.
deserves that.
Yes, they
that
do.
makes my heart so happy. It's an honor, first and foremost. But I just think that's such a pinnacle thing. I love that. That makes me feel really good.
Makes me happy too.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean,
joy.
Yeah. So those are just some of the things. It's like I feel this like this. I've noticed, like you mentioned, that the news cycle has definitely turned against Plus, which I mean, literally, I've been watching the genealogy of this with like Old Navy reneging on their body quality campaign. It all started with that.
It did. It really did.
It just really kind of shows where it's like, hello, like I was like, you cannot be irresponsible and over promising when you don't actually have the intention of doing any follow through.
Yep.
This is not a trend.
Right.
And so anyway, I just like, I mean, I remain eternally optimistic because I'm just like, this is a human rights matter. This is
Mm-hmm.
not a matter of like what the news cycle says or
Absolutely.
whatever. Like, it's great when the news cycle's on our side, but it's not always going to be. And we have to keep doing
Mm-mm.
this because it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So I remain optimistic because I do see people, including Hickey, uh, taking a stand, just saying like, I'm gonna fight for this. And
Yes.
it's so inspiring when it's like, it's again, it's one thing when you're like, oh, it's trending, we want to get some coverage.
No, that's a good point.
That is a good
It's
point.
one thing to do that, and it's another thing to say, I'm gonna fight for this even when it's not trending,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
Right.
And that's what matters. And I see those people doing that day in and day out, no matter what, and that really
Right.
lights me up too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's actually a really good point.
It is an excellent point.
I don't think I ever really thought of it like that.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's,
There's
was just so-
brands that I've seen
yeah,
that claim to,
be size inclusive, and they just made their XL
and there's not a
3X,
single
and there's not a
well,
single
not
thing.
even clothing,
It's like,
but like
yeah.
even stuff to put on your body, and there's not even anyone's size 10, 12 in their photos,
Oh, that's a big thing.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, how is that inclusive?
Representation matters. Don't just say it, be about it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I also see that in the boudoir world, though, too. People say they're size and gender inclusive, but their pages are all cis het white women that are tiny, perky boobs, flat bellies. Like, you can say one thing and
Right.
also show it,
Yeah.
like it's okay to have both, to be inclusive and show it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Virgie, I know we're a little bit over time. Are you okay?
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good? Okay.
Awesome.
We could just talk to you forever.
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
don't, we know your time is important. Was there anything else that we wanted to touch on? I can't remember.
Nope. We did it all.
I think we did it all. So we want people to follow you. Tell us all the ways that they can find you. Obviously your books and stuff like that. Tell us where the best place is for them to find you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably most active on Instagram at Virgie Tovar, VirgieTovar. And on my website, you can find out about all of the things I'm doing on VirgieTovar.com.
Yep, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Your website is wonderfully done. There's so
Very
much
well done.
all your trips, your books, your journal, your podcast, your links, your blog, your Forbes articles. They're all on there. So that is a really good resource. And they should just follow you on IG because you bring joy to this world. So
I felt like I was a little bit with you on that trip. I was like, what is she doing today?
yeah, very much that.
Makes me so happy to hear. I feel like I do. I feel like I'm very much like, hey, come with me on my journey. Right?
Yes,
like
yeah.
I have that. I like bringing sort of that welcome energy. So
Yes.
that feels good to hear.
Oh, very much. And you do very well.
This is the most fun. I had
is.
so much fun today.
This was a good one.
Yeah. Thank
we
you,
knew we
Virgie.
knew it was going to be good, but then you showed up and you're the exact same person that we see online, and
Yeah.
it's like that's so refreshing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here. Means the world to us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. And we'll see you in just a short month.
Yeah.
I'm coming. We're coming. We're doing
it.
Roses. We're doing it. I'm so excited.
41. 41. 41.
We love a good birthday. Yeah. Oh, make sure to like and subscribe to this page if you want to hear more content like this. And if you want to see behind the scenes, our uncut version is also on YouTube. What the Body. And we appreciate you all for being here and listening and joining us on this journey.
You.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.